All right, what's going on, gentlemen? We should be live. Today is April 20 something, 2026, 6:30 p.m. over here on the Pacific Coast, West Coast, Pacific time. Hey, what's going on? I'm Ephraim. Today we're going to be discussing why cold approach can sometimes feel stressful, specifically for somebody who's not done it yet, for beginners, but even for people who have done it and maybe they've fallen off the horse, they've lost their momentum. So we're going to talk about why it feels stressful and then more importantly, how to make it feel less stressful, make it feel easier. Because I'm somebody who's made it look quite easy at the very least on my channel throughout all my infield. If you're curious what I mean, you can click over to the video tabs and watch it. And so that's why guys reach out to me for help, is because they see that I can do it with a smile on my face. Even when it doesn't go my way, I still have a smile on my face and it looks as though I'm not stressed. It definitely feels as though I'm not stressed. And so it's like, well, how do we get to that point? Well, I'll help you get there with this stream. So yeah, firstly, if you don't know who I am, I'm Ephraim. I'm 26, from California, specifically the Bay Area, and I help introverted guys such as myself. I'm an introverted guy. I have a background in programming and tech sales, but firstly, my dating life used to suck, so I learned cold approach. Now it rocks. That's the TLDR, and I help introverted guys do the same. I've got a wide array of clients, anywhere from data analyst to attorney, a couple web designers. So just generally speaking, any role really, but guys that are ambitious, that are high achievers, and their dating life lags behind. So specifically, I target my content towards guys that have something going for them in life. Don't care how tall you are. Don't care how looks maxed you are. I care more about your mentality and your attitude towards life, because, in my opinion, that matters a lot more, and that is a much better predictor of how far you're going to get in life. Is your behavior and your attitude, not your physicality. So I market my content towards those guys, specifically the ones that are introverted, because me, I don't really like nightclubs or loud bars, at least when I'm trying to shoot my shot. I'm a soft spoken guy, if you can't tell. And so, even in my videos, you'll hear I'm quite a soft spoken guy, even though I'm recording in the middle of London, for example, a busy city. So, yeah, that's why I market my content to who I do. So, if you feel as though you're in that bucket, then yeah, listen along. Hopefully, you pull some value from this. So yeah, why is cold approach stressful? This one's pretty easy. Yeah, so it's quite an unorthodox activity in 2026, especially to walk over to somebody while sober in the daytime, a stranger who you don't know. Yeah, they have no idea who you are. They have no idea that you're going to be walking over and engaging with them, and to just pop out of nowhere, get them to stop in their tracks, and then introduce yourself, start a conversation, deliver a compliment, everything that I teach, everything I demonstrate in my videos. And then ideally, if it's going well, if they're available and into you and there's mutual interest there, then ideally exchange contact details and set up a date. That whole sequence right there, which is littered throughout my channel, not just me, but also my clients doing it, that sequence is very unorthodox. It's probably always been somewhat unorthodox, but in 2026, when 70% of my generation is doom scrolling half the day, it's very unorthodox. Yeah, most people, all of their relationships have come from dating apps, and that's quite normal these days. And so, not saying that you can't find success on dating apps, and if you are, then you probably don't need my content. But if you're anything like me, when I learned this skill in 2023, I didn't like that I was so dependent on an algorithm. I didn't like that whenever I wanted a date, I had to literally stare at Tinder and wait for them to give me a match. Yeah, pray that they'll show my. I was pathetic. I was buying the little boosts, right? Firstly, I had the Tinder Gold, all the perks and shit, of course. But then I was also buying the boosts. Yeah, I remember there was you could buy like $10 and they'll boost your profile for an hour, just to find out that all the matches I got were fat girls anyway that I wasn't into. Just very demoralizing behavior and process, and I just didn't like it. And so that's specifically why I learned cold approaches, because I don't just see this skill as getting girls, and that's why I don't teach it that way. I see this skill as taking control back over your dating life, no longer having to wait for something, some algorithm, some big company to give you a date, and instead to be able to just go and get one yourself. Yeah, to see a girl that you like in person. And rather than thinking, okay, I hope I see her on Bumble later today, instead just going, yeah, I'm just going to pick up my nuts and walk over. Yeah, I'm just going to suppress that fear that I feel. I feel it too. I'm just going to suppress it and walk over and just give myself a chance. Because worst case scenario, she says no, she walks away. The sun still shines. Yeah, the sun still rises tomorrow, and life goes on. I still wake up. I still got to do my responsibilities, etc. And so I think that, small tangent in the beginning. I'm known for this, but I think all we all have this idea that worst case scenario is I'm gonna walk over to this girl. She's gonna pull out pepper spray. Yeah, somebody commented recently on one of my shorts. I thought it was so funny because in the video we actually like ended up exchanging details, right? But they, of course, the trolls will always comment. I thought it was quite funny. They were like, "She's pulling out pepper spray. Like that's why she reached into her pocket, right?" And so, in all of our heads, we have this idea that worst case scenario means the girl's gonna like call the cops on us and go, "Oh my God, a guy just called me pretty in public. Please arrest him now." We think that the U.S. military is just gonna like they're posted up behind the street corner. They're just gonna like pop out and snipe us. With their thermal scopes, yeah, for my Black Ops fan, the infrared scopes. It's like, what are we talking about? Yeah, the actual worst case scenario with this skill set is you get humbled. That's it. Yeah, and we all need a bit of that, myself included. I get humbled all the time, especially when I'm out filming content. Yeah, and so actual worst case scenario with this skill set is the girl's not interested in you. The girl doesn't respond to you when you say hello. So be it. Yeah, and we live to see another day. We're almost behaving as though we're like in being enlisted into the Vietnam War. Yeah, and all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, I'm going out to cold approach. Let me grab my armor. Yeah. No, we're not doing anything insane here, right? We're just going to chat to a girl. I like to break it down, right? So again, the claim, why is cold approach stressful? I get it. All right. It's 2026. We're all addicted to screens, and so yeah, it makes sense. It's a lot easier to lay down in our bed and scroll YouTube shorts than it is to go outside and do something that puts our ego on the line and yeah, makes us scared, makes us fearful. It's like we don't need to do anything that makes us fearful in 2026 if we don't want to. Literally, right? We really don't. So everything's pretty optional. Yeah, getting in shape is optional. Learning how to fight is optional. Anything that scares you is quite optional. You can just live your entire life at home. You can work from home. You can get food delivered. So it makes sense why this is a stressful activity. But again, the reason I market my content towards a specific type of person is because I'm already aware that most people are, or I guess a lot of people are spending all their time at home. That's not who I'm talking to. Yeah, I'm talking to people who recognize this pattern, recognize what's going on, that our attention's being hijacked by big companies and video games. Yeah, they have scientists that are literally like studying our brains, going, "Oh, are they more likely to stay on the game if we put this in as the background or this is the background?" It's crazy. And so I market my content towards guys that are rejecting that want to get offline and that want to just reintegrate into society and just and socialize like normal human beings have since the beginning of time. So yeah, anyways, this is why cold approach is stressful, right? It's because it's a difficult activity. You have the initial friction that the girl doesn't know what's going on or who we are. That friction is baked into this process, as opposed to if you walk over to a girl at your cousin's birthday party, for example. Let's say your cousin brought her cute friends to the birthday party. Okay, well, there's some familiarity there at least. There's not that initial friction of like, who's this random stranger, random guy, like there is in cold approach. So that's why it's stressful. Yeah, and then of course, because we risk our ego, we risk getting rejected, getting denied, and that's never fun, especially in early days, right? If you haven't gone through it. That's just a quick point here. That's why people with a sales background absolutely fly with this skill set. Just so you know. So if you happen to have a sales background and you've been watching my content, hovering over that book a call link, dude, book the call. Just trust me on this, all right? If you've got a sales background and you know what it feels like and what it means to be rejected and just persevere until you make the sale, like that's essentially what you're doing with cold approach. Of course, there are a lot more factors and it's tied to our sense of self-worth, which is what makes it more, it makes it feel like the stakes are higher. Technically they are, right? Because it's us on the line rather than the company that we're presenting and selling. But at the end of the day, like if you have sales experience, you automatically, I guess I should say, if you have like extensive sales experience slash you've been rejected a lot and been able to persevere, then yeah, you're going to fly with this skill set if you try to learn it, just so you know. And the reason I say that is because like a salesperson already has the mentality of somebody who would be good at cold approach. So like it doesn't like Gary's a fucking great example. Yeah, I love that Gary reached out for coaching. He's a prime example of what I mean. Yeah, so he has experience selling. in his industry of construction. And so he had gone through rejection. So that's why a guy who on paper, right, guys look at the thumbnail and they go 5'4", this is never going to work. Okay, well, meet Gary, right? There's a reason why. I say this on my channel a lot. Whatever we lack in physicality, whatever we lack in natural metrics, in genetics, yeah, and DNA, whatever we lack there, we can make up for in other areas of life. And a big one is mentality, is behavior, yeah, is attitude. And that is like Gary's a perfect example of what I've been saying for years on my streams, literally. Whatever we lack in physicality or what the world tries to tell us we lack, we can make up for with a rock star mentality and attitude. Yeah. And he talked about that a lot on his recap video that I posted at the end of his series. So, okay, so let's get more into the live stream. Okay, I've been kind of rambling. So, okay, so we're trying to make cold approach not stressful, and part of the reason why we don't want it to, or a better way to phrase this, part of what makes us seem stressed when we're in these conversations is that we are visibly tense. So I was definitely guilty of this when I was learning this skill. Most of my clients are when I'm teaching them this skill, is when they're walking over for the first few times ever, they tend to seize up. Their face muscles tense up. And that makes them look stressed. The girl responds to them accordingly, and then inevitably the conversation doesn't go the way they want it to, and they feel more stressed, right? And it's kind of like this negative reinforcement. And that's something I help them sort out very quickly, which is why they pay me, so that I can be looking at them, I can be recording them so they can see themselves back. So I can go, look at my infield, look how I was smiling. Now look at you, look how you look like you're suffering right now, okay? We got to fix this. Let's force the smile. Even if we got to force it, we'll force it. So I'll go through a few examples of why this tenseness looks quite unattractive or comes across as unattractive, and then why seeming relaxed, even if you're not relaxed, just portraying yourself as though you're relaxed is more attractive. All right. So the first example I put is the athlete example. I can just use myself for this example. It's hilarious. So I played football growing up in high school, but I didn't play basketball. I didn't play baseball. I didn't play soccer. All right. So if you hand me a football, I look very relaxed with it in my hands. I can throw it well. I know how to throw it. I know how to catch it, right? Especially we have the little mini ones that we throw around at the park. So we're doing these like one-handed, these fun catches and stuff. But everything that I'm doing looks very fluid, and go figure, right? I spent 4 years of my life every day after class, at least during season, throughout the summer as well, practicing catching a football and then throwing it back to the quarterback, etc. And so it makes sense why in this context, everything looks fluid and smooth and stuff. Now, you compare this to somebody who has never thrown a football in their life, and they kind of like, they seize up, they freeze up when you put it in their hands, and they're awkward when they move and throw it and stuff. So that's me in like all the other sports that I haven't played. So yes, a little bit of athleticism transfers over, but like you put a soccer ball in front of me and you're like, Ephraim, do something. Dude, I'm tripping over myself. I'm tripping over the ball. I'm tripping over my feet. I'm falling on my face. I don't know what to do with the fucking soccer ball. Never played. I probably kicked a soccer ball like 15 times in my life before. So in this example, right, same guy, same person, same guy, same DNA, but in one context, I look very smooth and relaxed. But in another context, especially if you put me on a field and say, all right, you're playing against those guys, right? You're on this team, you're playing against those. I don't even know the rules. I'd be fucked. I don't even know the rules, right? So I'd be trying my best to like do something, but I just look super nervous, and like not just physically too, right? Because I don't know what I'm doing physically, my face would not be as relaxed, right? As opposed to if you throw a football to me, I'm like, yeah, I know I can catch this, right? But then you tell me go score this soccer ball, I'm like, okay, right? My face would seize up. I wouldn't know what to do. So that's like one example of tense versus relaxed. Okay. Another example, this is closer to cold approach, would be if we're at a party. All right. So this is like a social example. So you imagine, let's just continue using myself as the example. You imagine me, this was probably me around 15 years old. When I was 15, I was like a sophomore. The first year I was getting invited to parties and stuff. And I remember I showed up to my first party ever, and I didn't know what socializing meant. It was a new environment for me. Some people were doing drugs. There was alcohol getting passed around. I had never touched either of those at that point. They were just I saw different sides of people, right? I saw like my classmates who in class were very reserved, and now in this new context of a party, they're all loose and letting loose, and one guy's got his shirt off, swinging it around and shit. I don't know. I'm piecing together this memory, right? But me, because this was my first time in this environment, I was very nervous, and there was cute girls around, right? You imagine I'm 15, all my school crushes are at this party and shit, and I'm just seizing up, right? And I got friends around me, so that helped out. I can kind of like stick with them. But whenever I tried to venture off on my own, I didn't know what to do, how to operate, how to speak. I was looking down, right? People would try to. This is funny too. People would come try to talk to me, and I would not really know what to do in that scenario. And then you pan the camera. Let's say we fast forward 2 years, and now I'm a senior, and I've been to some of these parties, or maybe I'm even throwing one, and it looks a lot different, right? Or even to not make myself seem overly cool, because I don't think I am. I'm not that cool. We'll just use a fictitious example of like somebody who walks in to the party. They got the 18 pack of beers on their shoulder. This frat guy archetype, right? They're yelling, they're saying what's up to everybody, they're playing the beer games, they're inviting everybody in, and it's like, on one hand, it's the person in the corner, frozen, freezing up, tense, nervous, and everything looks a bit odd, right? And the person looks very stressed out. This will tie into cold approach, just so you know. The person looks stressed. They're coming across as though they're stressed and tense because they're in a corner, they're looking down, they're not socializing. Somebody tries to include them in the conversation, and like they're not really, they're giving one word answers. It's almost like, why'd you show up here, bro? Why'd you show up to the party? And so externally, right, we look at that person and go, this guy's being weird and behaving odd. But internally, that person might just be nervous, right? Just scared and like overstimulated in that environment. And then again, you pan to the example of the person who's owning the party or chatting to everybody and including everybody and dancing, right? One song comes on, they start doing the dance routine, gathering everybody in. It's like, well, that person looks a lot different, right? A lot more relaxed, carefree. And the funny part is it could be the same guy, right? Same guy, just 3 years apart. So that was, in my case, that was me, right? First party ever, super tense in the corner. And then you pan over to senior year and I'm the guy doing the dance routines with the friends and taking aux over and shit, playing the beer games. And so it's like, now let's pan to cold approach, all right? This is the applicable example. So you imagine Ephraim during his first ever approach. Oh man, this hurts to even remember back to because that's how stressful this was for me, dude. I was visibly shaking. This is so visibly, like if you were looking at me, you could, if I held my hand up, it would be going like this. Like I was visibly shaking. My stomach, my heart was in my stomach and my stomach was in my feet. Like it was all, I felt like I was going to shit my pants. Um, my mind, I couldn't think about anything else aside from, oh my God, I'm here. I'm in Warsaw, Poland right now. I'm supposed to do my first cold approach right now. Holy shit, I can't, this doesn't even feel real. Nothing felt real. And I remember like there was no smile on my face at all. None of this process was fun for me, learning this skill. None of this was fun. I was thinking about, again, these fake worst case scenarios. What if the Polish government just apprehends me and throws me in Warsaw jail? Oh my God, for chatting up a girl, right? For going over and saying, you look pretty. What if they throw me in jail for that? These are the thoughts that were going through my head, right? Oh my God, I might get arrested. Just absurd thinking, right? But this is what the brain does when it wants to keep us, when it wants to drag us back to safety. This is what the brain does, right? It over exaggerates or exaggerates everything. So we think that that's the worst case scenario. In reality, the worst case scenario is the girl goes, okay, I have a boyfriend, bye. That's like actual worst case. But anyways, back to scene, right? And so if you can imagine, right, the guy who you've potentially seen, if you've seen my videos, my infields, right, you see me walking over to groups of girls, yeah, a couple pairs of girls, and I see him all cool, calm, and collected in front of them. I'm joking with them. I'm flashing a smile. It's like, oh, this guy seems like a natural, right? I see that in my comment section quite a bit. No, let's rewind the clock. Rewind the clock just 3 years. Yeah, I'm 26 now. I was 23 when I learned this. Just 3 years ago, that was where I was. And I wasn't smiling at all. I was very fidgety. And my first approach went something along the lines of the girl sat on a bench. I walked over. I went, hey, excuse me. Do you speak English? You look beautiful. Bye. And then I just ran away. The whole thing couldn't have lasted more than 10 seconds. That's all I could muster. And it did feel good. It did feel good to be on the other side of my first ever approach. But that's kind of how it looked for the first day or two of me learning this skill set. And then you pan over to like present day, what I demonstrate on my channel, all of a sudden I look very relaxed. So what I was trying to get at with these examples is that, the title is how do we make cold approach not stressful? The first thing is to recognize why it being stressful kind of blows the entire thing up. Or I guess not the activity being stressful, but when you're visibly stressed out is a better way to put it. It just blows the whole interaction up. Because if you imagine all of the conversations you've seen on the internet from me, but then instead you swap out that version of me with the version of me who had never done his first approach, I'd be frozen. I probably wouldn't have gone over to those girls in the first place, but if I had, I would be like whispering, right? I would be super monotone and my face would look like this, like I'm in pain. And I'd go, excuse me, do you speak English? I would just look, I would look terrible. The whole thing would be bad, all right, is what I'm trying to say. The whole thing would be awful. So now we're getting to the phase of the live stream where I'm going to discuss how to make this process less stressful. Now that you should understand at a deep level why, if you're portraying yourself as stressed out in these conversations, the whole thing gets fucked. Yeah, the same way same guy, right? If you're at a party and you're looking down, not speaking to anyone, as opposed to you're socializing with everybody and saying cheers and shit, kumbaya, whatever. Like, it's the same guy, but the behavior is different, right? One guy looks very comfortable and relaxed, but the other version of him looks very stressed and scared. So if you're coming across that way in your approaches, in your conversations, none of them are going to go anywhere. And that's the thing, is like, there are probably guys watching this, if you've been following the content for a few years, trying to self-teach. If you've actually been actively going out and approaching and just hitting a wall and nothing's changing, you're plateaued, they're going nowhere, you keep getting into like 15-second conversations that go nowhere after that, this is likely the problem. Yeah, even, I have no idea if it could be also technique, like how you're stopping the girl, sure. But let's just assume that looks decent enough. Then what's probably going on is you visibly look tense and stressed out in these conversations. Nobody wants to have a conversation with somebody that's super stressed out, specifically if they're a stranger approaching them on a sidewalk, for example, right? Just way out in public at a cafe. If somebody comes up to you and they look very like nervous, tense, scared, immediately danger signs are going off in your head and you're going, let me just get away from this person. Because like, if we think about the cost benefit ratio, whatever that equation is, for the girl that you're approaching, if you look visibly scared and stressed out, the cost to benefit ratio of her walking away is she walks away from whatever the fuck she thinks is going on in front of her because she has no context. She has no idea what you want, except that you look very nervous and stressed. And yeah, I guess that's also the benefit, is she just gets out of potential harm's way because she doesn't know what's going on quite yet. So anyways, all right, so let's get into it. So the first thing I want to discuss is like small physical wins. So just physical activity. This helps me a lot, and I know it helps a lot of my clients too. So it's quite hard to go from a week or a weekend. Let's just say a Saturday. You wake up on a Saturday. It's quite hard to go from like the first 5 hours of your day, you're scrolling YouTube Shorts, you're just binge watching YouTube content, and then just get up at 1 p.m., right? Just go take a shower at 1 p.m. and then go outside and say, all right, I'm going to do the hardest social skill I can possibly imagine, cold approach. Yeah, it's quite hard to go from just like laying down for 5 hours, not doing shit, watching content, which is not benefiting you, to then like, all right, now I'm just going to throw myself into the deep end and try to do something extremely difficult. So when I say physical wins, I just mean like get yourself moving. And this one helps me a lot too, especially back when I was in 2024, back when I was really just approaching, having the time of my life. I wasn't coaching, I was just approaching to date. Oftentimes I would just go to the gym to start my day, and that would always set me off right. And so for me, it was just the gym, it's pushing weights. But for some people, it's just an activity, right? If you like to, I have a client that likes to play badminton. It's just any physical activity that gets you moving. It's the same time that you could have been spending scrolling, getting that same dopamine rush from a device, but instead you're getting it from actually like benefiting yourself and working towards better health. And so that sounds like the sponsor I hear on videos. Better Health. The sponsor of today's video is Better Health. All right, anyways. I think that's like Mr. Ballin. You guys watch Mr. Ballin? This is a weird tangent. I fucking love Mr. Ballin's videos. Anyways, let's get back to it, okay? So yeah, small physical wins. I would encourage you to get moving before. So like obviously a Saturday, right? A lot of people probably can do let's say a session on a Saturday. They're off of work. So let's say it's going to be sunny tomorrow. So if you want to, let's say, go out and do a session, ideally line yourself up with a date. It's a lot easier to go from fresh out of the gym, you're proud of yourself, you got the blood flowing, yeah, you like that you moved around a bit, you feel better about yourself overall. That's really what I'm getting at too. And don't take this the wrong way. I'm not saying inject testosterone and go gym max. I'm saying like the feeling that you get from following through on something like exercise, that version of you is just more attractive and alluring than the version of you who's fucking off all of your day on content and TikTok, just watching TikTok, for example. The version of you that actually gets up, does something difficult that he doesn't have to do, like pushing weights, and then tries to go and do an approach, he just presents himself better because he feels better about himself. Yeah, because his self-image, even if it's just 2% higher, it's higher than it would have been if he was doom scrolling. Because if he's doom scrolling, it's probably like 20% lower. Yeah, self-image I'm describing. So yeah, that's the first thing is go and do something physical. And even if that means just running a mile, doing some sprints, swimming laps, like whatever your activity is that you prefer. And if you're not doing any activities, well, that's your fucking problem right there. All right, is thinking that you can do the hardest social skill ever when you're not doing anything. Okay, the next would be social momentum. So I'd say this is slightly more important than physical momentum, but I think you pair the two, right? They're not mutually exclusive. I'd encourage you to do both. So remember, the goal here is how do we make cold approach less stressful? So the first way is to feel better about yourself when you're doing the approach, i.e., you feel better physically, you feel healthier because you've done an activity, a physical activity. All right, the second way is social momentum. So I've got clients that have signed up for dance classes, improv classes, different avenues that aren't specifically cold approach, but that get them to socialize. I have guys that have signed up for dating events, right? Like speed dating, in-person speed dating events, stuff like this, where they could just as easily not do that. But if you think about this, the version of you who's taking part in some social activity is going to feel more social, have more social momentum behind him or under him, as opposed to, again, the version of you who decided not to do that and instead lay down and doom scroll. So it's like, think about the gap that you have to bridge from doom scrolling to then cold approaching. Very difficult, right? As opposed to maybe doom scrolling in the morning. I would encourage you not to do that. But anyways, let's say you do it. Fair enough. But then he actually like gets up after 30 minutes, hops in the shower, and then drives over to do his improv class or takes the train over to do his dance, his Saturday salsa class, whatever it is. Because I'm saying the activity in like one sentence, but like think about what this actually entails. It's like you facing a fear, right? You doing something difficult. You showing up to class. You firstly getting dressed in your nice little salsa button up, whatever you're rocking. Showing up to class, yeah, saying hi to the instructor, breaking the ice with the other students. Probably some of them are going to be cute girls. Introducing yourself, yeah, then actually having to like look people in the eyes, more of an intimate kind of a dance too. And so like you're having to move your body with people. And so it's like, there's a lot of stuff happening in these environments. So then to go from that salsa class, let's say it ends at 2:30 p.m. on Saturday, it's very, very easy to walk over to a girl, in comparison at least, in comparison to if you were just doom scrolling the whole day and then you try to walk over and shoot your shot. Does that make sense? So that's the second way, is by just stacking small social wins. I would really encourage you to do this. And honestly, if you don't want to like do a full class, part of this can just be like what we would call warm ups. So like let's say you are at the gym, for example, then just like starting very platonic conversation with people at the gym, just like, hey bro, what you benching over there? Or oh, it must be a leg day for you, huh? Or just whatever, just like trying to get your social juices flowing. And then yeah, if you want to take it a step further, though, I would consider like an actual social activity that you have to sign up for, potentially that you have to pay for, because then you're invested, way more likely to go and way more likely to take it serious. But yeah, when it comes to approach itself, it could just be chatting to the grandma, right? Instead of just going straight in for the extremely hot fitness babe that you see over there that you want to approach. It could just be like going over to grandma and saying, your earrings look amazing today. Hi, how's it going? I just want to tell you that. Okay, have a nice day. Yeah, again, the version of you who comes off the back of that small interaction, right? She'll probably appreciate it, get into a quick 2-minute chat. She's like, oh, you remind me of my nephew. Cool. The version of you who comes off of that 2-minute interaction is going to have more social momentum behind him, again, than the version of you who's just doom scrolling, okay? And then these last two are easily the most important. This is why I saved them for last. So if you're still watching, then shout out to you. You get the actual golds. So yeah, the first two, physical momentum, social momentum, they definitely help you. But the last two are the actual like needle movers when it comes to making cold approach not stressful. So for example, if you do all of these things, but you have never actually done a cold approach, then yeah, just because you come out of salsa class doesn't mean you can now all of a sudden walk over to the hottie that you see out of nowhere. So the first thing I read is familiarity. So what this means in the context of cold approach is this sentence: I've been here before. All right, and this pretty much applies to everything in life, honestly, but also cold approach. I've been here before. And if you've been here before, you feel comfortable. Same thing with that football example I was using earlier, right? Same thing with a party example as well. Because I had played football before, you throw a football to me now, I've been here before. I just know what to do. I know how to position my hands to catch it. I know where to put my fingers on the lace to throw it and throw the spiral and stuff, right? So it's like, I've been here before. So that's what makes everything less stressful. Then you hand me a soccer ball. I've not been here before. I'm very stressed out. Okay, same deal with the party, right? You bring over 14-year-old Ephraim and say, go to that party where all these people are socializing and shit. I've not been here before. And so that's what makes me seize up. But then you look at that 18-year-old version of me who had been to a lot of them, and I've been here before, okay? So same thing with cold approach. This is what you're seeing in my videos, all right? So if you filter my content by oldest and you watch my oldest infields, I had been there before, but not as many times, all right? So, the version of me I was describing who did my first approach had never been there before. Scared out of my mind, about to piss my pants. You filter my content by oldest, I think that was like 7 or 8 months after I'd learned the skill properly. And so I still sounded quite unsure of myself, quite nervous, but I had been there before. And so I was calm enough to get dates, right? You filter by oldest. I was already dating through cold approach on the very first infield that you can watch on my channel, which should give you hope, by the way. I should have said this. Don't compare your approach to my most recent infield, for example. All right, that's me who's spamming the skill to get to a point where I could teach it to other guys, so I've overkilled it, right? But if you filter my content by oldest and you watch that, at that point, I was getting dates through the skill. And I was still seizing up, right? But I still had a smile on my face and I was nervous. I was freezing up in conversations. I was saying random shit. Some of the stuff didn't make sense. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't need to. It was good enough. All right, so that should give you hope. You don't need to get to my level in order to get dates. I'm just at a point where I'm trying to teach guys this skill. You just need to get good enough to like face your fear, walk over. You can fumble, you can stumble, but as long as you present yourself enough times, as long as you've been there before, that's good enough. So anyways, back to familiarity. So I just want you to imagine that I'll speak to the brand new beginners, the guys who just are consuming the content, but have never actually walked over and shot their shot. Yeah, cold approach. I've never walked over to the girl. Well, because you're unfamiliar with being in that specific scenario, it's quite a stress-inducing scenario. I described how stressed I felt doing my first one in Warsaw. So it's likely that you feel the same way, right? You're walking down the street, whatever you're doing, you're walking to the cafe, you're walking to meet up with your friends at the park. And as you're going there, you're passing by girls on a minute-by-minute basis that you find attractive. And your brain typically is flooding with any excuse. Oh, she's too blank, too tall. She's too good for me. She's too pretty for me. I'm not tall enough. I'm not jacked enough. I need more money. I need to do more bone smashing. Oh my. Well, because you've not actually done the thing quite yet, that's what's causing this stressful feeling. Now you imagine but you've done, and this sounds like a lot, I understand, but let's just say you've done 100 of these. Let's use 200. Let's use 500 of these. I just want it to sound absurd, right? Let's say you've done 500 approaches. Comparing the first version of yourself who's not done any to the one who's already done 500, that familiarity really is going to compound. Think about this. You've faced your fear 500 different times. And I'm not saying in a lifetime. Let's say in the last year you did 500. Your brain is just going to recognize, wait, we've been here before. And so that stressful feeling that you felt on the first 20, 30, 40 approaches that you did is no longer going to be there on the 500th approach that you do or the 501st approach that you do. So familiarity is huge, and it's not something that you can override with physical momentum or social momentum. Familiarity is your brain literally going, I've been in this exact scenario before, therefore I know I'm going to survive it because the last 500 times I survived it. The last 500 times the girl didn't pull out pepper spray. The last 500 times the girl didn't call the cops and I didn't get thrown in jail. All of these absurd excuses that your brain comes up with when you haven't done an approach yet. Let's say you get to that 500 mark. You're going to look back on your body of work. Some dates have come from it. Some numbers have come from it. Plenty of rejections have come from it. But you're going to realize nothing actually bad has happened to you except your ego has been broken down, within which in my eyes is a very good thing. It's a very beneficial thing. You've been humbled, necessary. So yeah, familiarity is the first thing. And then the second is competence. Competence is huge. Just knowing what to do. So actually like knowing how to stop the girl without her giving you some like very startled reaction, because that's pretty typical when you're a beginner and you just don't know what you're doing. You're incompetent. Is you walk over and you have no intentions of scaring the girl, right? I know, I can see inside your brain as somebody who follows this content. I know exactly what you're thinking when you're walking over. You're thinking, she looks good. I'm scared right now, but I'm going to go try my best because I want to see if she's interested in me. That's all you're thinking. Yeah, very innocent thoughts. But if you don't know what you're doing, then when you walk over for the first few times, it's likely that you're going to get some reaction that you don't want. So that has to do with this concept of incompetence, lacking the skills to not create that reaction that you don't want. So that's an example, right? Her jumping and being startled. Another reaction or another example is you actually delivering a compliment and then like not knowing where to go from there. She's like, thank you so much. And you go, yeah. So, right, that's another example of incompetence. It's just not knowing where to go from here, what to say. Another big example, this one's pretty common for a beginner, is let's say the conversation's going extremely well, but your brain, again, is still sabotaging you. It's giving you some reason as to why you're not good enough, whatever. And so even though it's going well, you keep elongating it because you're scared of actually pulling the trigger and just asking her out. And you can feel that there's mutual interest there, but because you keep elongating it and you keep elongating it, you keep asking very irrelevant questions, and eventually the attraction dies down and the girl just wants to walk away now. And then now that you're on your back foot, you go, okay, but before you go, like, can I maybe like have your number maybe? And you say it in a very weak, unsure way as though you think she's going to say no to you. That's another example of incompetence. Yeah. And yeah, to end off the stream, I guess, first let's tie it all together. How do we make cold approach non-stressful? Well, the first way is to recognize why it feels stressful. It's very unorthodox. Okay, check. The second is to realize why it feeling and looking stressful is unattractive. And it's because the version of you who's completely relaxed, smile on your face, hey, you look amazing, what's up, what's going on? He looks a lot better and he presents himself a lot better than the version of you who goes, oh, excuse me, you look so good right now. Look at my look at my eyebrows. I look like I'm mad. You look amazing right now. Yeah, hi, how's it going? Again, same guy, same DNA, right? Different behavior though, different attitude, different stress levels. And so that's why it appears unattractive to the girl. And then how do we actually make the process not stressful? Well, the first way, the cheap ways, if you don't want to actually invest into yourself in this area of your life, would be just stack some small wins. All right. So physical momentum, social momentum, get yourself moving, get off of the apps, stop scrolling, watching, consuming content endlessly, and instead like go out and force yourself into the world, interact with people. Yes. That makes the gap between where you feel like you're at right now and then the hardest social skill you're going to build, cold approach, that makes that gap slightly smaller. Because instead of starting from doom scrolling, you're starting from complimenting Granny on her earrings, or you're starting from attending the improv class / dance class, or any sort of momentum that you can generate. Going to the gym, feeling good about yourself, and then even socializing with some of the people in between sets. All right. But then the higher leverage skills or the higher leverage categories would be familiarity and competence. So actually putting yourself in that position time and time again, and then learning what to do. This is typically through repetition. And so there might be like a question mark in your head. Okay, I'm still scared of actually walking over. So like, how am I going to get familiar with doing it? How am I going to get competent in it if I'm scared of it? Well, welcome to my channel. This is the exact problem I solve. All right. So I have a background in programming, I have a background in tech sales, and I left that corporate life behind because I saw a bigger impact here, because I recognized how difficult this process was, how scared I was, which is why I had to reach out and pay for coaching. And so if I had to do it, the guy who makes all this fucking content, then I imagine a lot of guys also are going to have to do this. There's some guys that are just resilient enough to teach this to themselves. Applause, round of applause for those guys. I just wasn't one of them. So if you've gotten to the end of this stream and you're going, well, I would love to be more familiar with cold approach. I just can't walk over. I'm scared, or I've tried it twice and I can't do anything more. And I have no idea what I need to work on, what I need to fix. I've got nobody listening to me and watching my approaches to give me feedback. Yeah, exactly. So nice to meet you. My name's Ephraim. So you can click the first link in the description below if you actually want to work with me in person or virtually. You can book a call and we can discuss whether or not we're a good fit, and if so, which program would work better for you, because this is exactly the problem I solve. This is why I make all of my content. I don't just make infield content to make myself seem cool on the internet. I do not give a fuck. If anybody sees me cold approach, if anybody knows that I can cold approach, I don't care. In fact, I'm a private guy. I prefer to be more private than not. The reason why I post this content, the reason why I flew to London last year for all of those infields so I could film those. The reason why I fly to my clients in different countries and I stand next to them, I put my arm around them, and I guide them through this skill set is because I want other like-minded guys, other guys who either categorize themselves as an introvert or a guy who's quite analytical. I tend to resonate with them because I had a programming background. I want them to actually step forward out of the shadows because they've gotten to their breaking point, because they recognize that they're not being favored on apps and they're swiping for 10 months at a time until they match with Fat Sheila. Hooray. I want the guys who understand that they can take control of their dating life as opposed to leaving it up to an algorithm or having to leave it up to every Friday night when they go out with the lads trying to get lucky, shooting their shot at the grungy bar and not getting anywhere that way. It's funny, you probably relate because I was having these conversations with my roommates back in 2023, 2022, 2023 before I learned cold approach, where we would all get together, right? We would host a little pregame. We'd all be taking shots at Jack Daniels and we'd all be talking about how we're going to get blown, how we're going to get laid that night. Oh, this is going to go so great. We're all going to come home with some hot ass girls. Here, you're going to get that room. I'll get this room. It's going to be so fun. It's going to be so amazing. And then we show up to the bar and we'd be throwing back shots and throwing back beers and we'd be playing pool and talking about all the hot girls that we saw, but then not doing anything about it, nothing about it. And then inevitably we'd show up back home, sad, dejected, like, oh, damn, we'll get them next week, huh? We got next Friday to look forward to. Just this constant cycle of nothing going on. So, yeah, if you find yourself in that same position, I imagine a lot of guys are, because I certainly was. I looked just like this, same funny little George Washington haircut. Yeah, same nose ring, same beard. I had it all. Everything looked the same, except my behavior. My behavior was a lot different. Yeah, so I learned this skill set. It freed me from having to rely on apps, having to rely on Friday, Saturday nights with my friends, having to rely on hitting on my coworkers. That's always funny. It's like you got to ask yourself, are you even attracted to that coworker you have a crush on, or does she just happen to be the hottest girl in the office? Yeah, because a lot of the time it's like you see her out and about. Yeah, she doesn't even turn her head, but she just happens to be hot, the hottest one in the office. That's why you like her. It's like I didn't want to be tied to these specific avenues. I just wanted to open up my dating life and really just take control of it. Just be able to go over and shoot my shot when I wanted to, when I saw a girl I liked. And so you imagine yourself, this happens to me and my clients, right? Let's say you're at a cafe getting some work done and you see a girl walk in and she's just your type. Yeah, to have the confidence to walk over and to know what to say in that situation. And more importantly, to have the confidence to actually do the plan, right? Whatever you're planning on saying, to actually go over and do it decently, right? Rather than like seizing up. Instead, be able to like have a proper smile on your face and just know what to do and be familiar with doing it. That's the problem I solve anyways. So to not ramble too much, if you want my help, if you want my direct guidance, I make content for you. Yeah. For guys that know that they're dateable, that are frustrated that they just don't have the dates to show for it, that are frustrated when they show up to the family barbecue and their uncles and their cousins have hot wives and girlfriends and they're looking around like, wait a second. We share the same DNA. Like, what the fuck? Where's my hot girlfriend? Yeah, exactly. Where is she? She should be on your arm, literally. Why are you suffering more than you need to? Why are you more lonely, or why are you lonely when you don't need to be? Yeah, why are we spending half a decade jerking off to the same porn videos when you can just go find the love of your life and have an amazing romance? Yeah, and just have a great time. And not to mention all of the auxiliary benefits you get, right? Just essentially you learn cold approach, you turn into a wicked salesperson. So that opens up career opportunities. Whatever career path you're on, you just become a bolder person in that career field. You take less shit, you become more assertive, more of a go-getter, more of a risk taker. So anyways, I don't feel the need to sell it. I think my content does a good job of that. So yeah, if you want to become my next success story, then feel free to click the link in the description below. See if we're a good fit for coaching. All right. Otherwise, I'll chat to you soon.